Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to peel back the glossy layers of one of America's most famous luxury destinations to reveal, well, a pretty fascinating hidden geological mystery. We're looking at Naples, Florida. But, not the version you usually see in those glossy travel brochures. We are looking at the foundational reality of the place. Okay, let's dive into this, because the whole situation down there completely subverts everything we think we know about modern real estate. I mean, think about it for a second. What actually happens when a luxury city tries to pave over an ancient ecosystem, and the ecosystem just flat out refuses to leave? That right there is the core tension of Naples. It's literally a city built on top of a living, breathing, ancient substrate that absolutely could not be conquered. To really understand how unique this is, we have to look at Section 1. The illusion of clearance. See, for over a century, these massive titans of industry and government tried to tame the Everglades, and they all hit the exact same brick wall. Now, in almost every other high-end zip code in America, the strategy was super simple, right? You clear the marsh, cut the forest, drain the wetland, and just build on a blank slate. Simple. But here? Well, in 1881, Hamilton Distant bought 4 million acres and spent a literal fortune digging canals. He failed. In 1904, Governor Broward tried it with the full power of the state behind him. And yeah, he failed too. By the time Baron Collier finally opened the Tamiami Trail Highway in 1928, the whole strategy had to shift, because as it turns out, surface engineering was entirely defeated by a permeable limestone aquifer. The water down there moves under the ground at a massive regional scale. You literally can't just drain it away. So we're left with this really profound contrast. Normally, standard luxury relies entirely on clearance. It's all about the total mastery of the parcel of land. But Naples luxury? That's defined by asymmetry. Because development couldn't conquer the geology, it was essentially forced to build around it and into it. Those retention ponds and canals you see everywhere, they aren't interruptions of the ecosystem, they're actually extensions of it. And that brings us right to Section 2, coexistence under asymmetry. So, coexistence under asymmetry. Basically, this is a condition where two systems of vastly different age, scale, and operational logic remain simultaneously active on the exact same ground. And I want to be incredibly clear right up front here. This is not about some harmonious eco-stewardship or people living in perfect, peaceful balance with nature. Not at all. It's just that neither the built environment nor the ecosystem can fully eliminate the other. The ecosystem can't evict the subdivisions, obviously, because they're defended by capital and seawalls. But the subdivisions can't eliminate the ecosystem either, because it's physically connected to millions of acres of protected wetlands. It creates this permanent structural tension. I absolutely love this quote because it takes that dense academic definition and grounds it with a truly visceral image. The alligator is not a tenant. The alligator is not a trespasser. Think about that. If you have an apex predator swimming in your backyard residential canal, it is operating on its own operational logic. It isn't just visiting. It is in the canal because that canal is connected to the exact same water it has lived in for millions of years. It definitely doesn't care about human property law. This introduces a fascinating concept in Section 3, the older claim, deep geological time. Let's just consider the layers of occupation for a second. Your modern title, the actual deed you defend in court, is incredibly recent, mostly dating back to just the mid-20th century post-war period. Now, before that, you have the indigenous presence, the Calusa, Seminole, and Miccosukee tribes spanning hundreds to thousands of years. But deeper still is the ecological presence. We're talking about Florida panthers with the lineage tracing back to the Pleistocene era, and alligators that literally survived the extinction of the dinosaurs. The legal framework of property is enforceable, absolutely, for sure. But it is wholly incomplete when describing who is actually occupying the land. It kind of challenges everything we assume when we sign a piece of paper to quote-unquote own a piece of the earth. Let me actually put some numbers to this to emphasize the staggering scale of the wild that is hiding in plain sight. 200. There are roughly 200 Florida panthers operating in a contiguous habitat block of 1,267 square miles, and that begins right at the eastern edge of the Naples metro area. This isn't some fenced-in zoo. This is the exact same county. Now, let's scale that up a bit. 1.3 million. That is the estimated population of American alligators in Florida. And this brilliantly illustrates the point because they share the exact same hydrological basin as the region's absolute most exclusive country clubs. The fence between the luxury real estate and the wild is purely administrative. The animals? Yeah, they definitely do not recognize it.
So, what does this tension actually look like when you're standing right there? Let's get into section 4, the interface aesthetic.
The lawn meets the mangrove. This isn't just some nice decorative buffer for your backyard. This is the actual working edge of the interface. On one side of the line, you've got manicured mowing and human irrigation, right? But on the very next inch, literally, on the other side of that invisible line, you have ancient tidal exchange and hydrology maintaining the mangrove. The resident essentially lives in this continuous, low-grade awareness that their parcel of land is shared. And here is where it becomes a strictly quantifiable economic reality, because there is a major market shift happening right now. While 60% of affluent buyers might still look for the standard luxury market amenities, a full 40% are willing to pay a massive 30 to 50% premium for what researchers call a sense of place. We're talking about younger, newer luxury buyers who are kind of indifferent to generic amenities. Instead, they want this exact, authentic, entirely unreplicable interface. This builds into an absolutely crucial core concept. The substrate itself is the value. Look, you can copy Palm Beach architecture. You can easily replicate an Aspen clubhouse. But you cannot install an ancient, continuous wetland substrate in another state. The ground itself, that older claim we talked about, is literally the only truly non-interchangeable asset the region has. Which brings us to the present-day crossroads in Section 5, two development logics. So the first logic is anchored in what we can call the Paradise Coast illusion. For over 60 years, the region's marketing has mostly selected for generic sunsets and pristine white beaches, completely ignoring the active wetland and the apex predators. Basically, it sells a generic version of luxury. But by doing that, it positions the city to compete with literally every other interchangeable luxury beach town in the world, often against competitors with way bigger marketing budgets. And this leaves the region with a really stark choice. The older logic slowly spends the substrate. Through parcel-by-parcel densification and just endless surface engineering, it slowly erodes the ecosystem to build more standard amenities. But pushing against that, we have an emerging logic. Driven by these new buyers paying massive premiums, this logic depends entirely on preserving the substrate. Because think about it, if you destroy the ecosystem, you literally destroy the very thing that's driving the premium in the first place. So what does the path forward look like under that emerging logic? Well, step 1, acknowledge the non-replicable substrate. Step 2, build to the interface, not across it. And step 3, depend on preservation to actually maintain the property value. This is so vital to grasp. This new logic isn't just some fringe environmentalist position. It is a structural economic requirement to protect the only thing that gives the place its true non-replicable value. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Which logic will decide the future of Naples? Will it just become another expensive, cleared-out beach town? Or will it recognize the immense value of its older claim? This is a high-stakes choice being made parcel by parcel, season by season, right now as we speak. And it fundamentally challenges all of us to think about what luxury actually means and how we choose to coexist with the ancient forces of nature sitting just beyond the seawall.